Start on your bolster. So as you settle yourself on your support, start with the release of the limbs. Once you are satisfied with your placement on your mat and on your bolster, then start with the release of the limbs, the heaviness in the limbs to the floor. So the legs lengthening away from the hips and the outer shins, outer thighs, outer knees, little toes, all releasing to the floor. And then feel the shoulders dropping down away from the ears. And then toward the floor, the shoulders wrapping around the bolster. Let the arms be very heavy as they descend to the floor, outer elbows releasing to the floor, thumbs releasing to the floor. See that the upper arm bone is rolling outward, externally rotating so that the palms turn toward the ceiling and you balance on the middle knuckle of the hand. You can sort of catch the inner edge of the middle knuckle, the side that's toward the index finger on the mat. Kind of catch it there so that the hands can spread outward. So with the anchoring of the arms and legs, have a feeling of like sandbags. The way sandbags will anchor a balloon so that it doesn't fly up into the sky. Have a feeling of heaviness, weightedness, earthiness in the arms and legs to serve as an anchor for the trunk. Now in the trunk, as you develop the breath here, starting with a resting breath, and then inviting the breath to become just a little bit slower and softer, just a little bit at a time. Feel that sense of loft that you're creating in the trunk, especially in the chest region, but really in the entire trunk. Have a feeling that the breath goes everywhere and fills the entire trunk from the groins all the way up to the shoulders. Let the breath develop gradually and steadily. So as the exhales get slightly longer, softer and slower, then the inhales will also respond in the same way. So the inhales and exhales kind of encourage each other to become just a little bit softer, a little bit slower by setting the precedent. With each breath, moving closer to classic Ujjayi, have a feeling of loftiness, lightness, anchored by the sandbag, so to speak, of the arms and legs. So that the trunk is expanding, getting lighter, more expansive, more spacious. And there's a pulsing, there's a rhythm. So the balloon doesn't stay the same size. It's pulsing, it's breathing. So with the inhales, it gets larger, lighter, more expansive, more spacious. And then with the exhales, it gradually comes back to its original size and shape. So continue in this manner, developing, growing into the Ujjayi. So we don't just harshly begin and end the Ujjayi, we gradually develop it, and then we taper down. Now, as the Ujjayi develops, feel how the chest, the rib cage, expands more and more. And when we talk about the deep breath, have it be a low breath, not deep as in more and more volume being pumped in, but deep as in low, the lower lungs, the lower ribs. Those tiny alveolar sacs. So we have these balloon-like structures within the lungs, the alveoli, and they branch out and go from larger to smaller, then smaller, smaller, smaller. And so the little tiny alveoli and the lower lungs, can we even reach those lungs through the rhythm of the breath? And also what's happening here is the diaphragm is being toned. All the muscles of respiration are also being toned. So it's not a gripping, it's not a muscular action, so to speak, the way we would grip like a calf muscle or we make a fist, but it's receiving the breath and then coming back down, exhaling fully. And so as we expand into the Ujjayi, then the respiratory muscles and the diaphragm muscles, they get more strong and more supple. So it's not a matter of strength at the cost of flexibility. It's a combination of strength and flexibility that we are seeking in these respiratory muscles. And of course, the respiratory muscles move on their own. You don't have to think about it at all. But when we do bring our attention to it, we can enhance the movement. We can enhance the breath mechanism. We can become more participatory in respiratory health. So now start to develop into a three-stage Viloma. So you can picture like a small balloon at the very center of your trunk on the first stage, and then you pause, and then you inhale into the next layer, which is a larger balloon, and then you pause, and then you inhale and fill the whole chest cavity. So it's like 3 different sizes balloons, one inside of another, or you can think of it as like a Matryoshka doll, how one doll is nested inside another. So the 3-stage Viloma, at your own pace, starting from the core and then expanding outwards with a pause in between. That last breath is just to kind of fill up whatever space is left. So the size of the in-breaths will vary. And it will vary from with each repetition. So no Viloma will be the same. Take your time on the exhale, seeping the air out, deflating all 3 of the balloons. And the length of the pause is something to notice so that you don't stay any longer than you need to if you're feeling any kind of strain. So you stop the kumbhaka, the pause, before the strain. So the kumbhaka, during the kumbhaka, you can feel the breath kind of percolating and filling the space, the balloon expanding to its fullest, and then breathe in again before you feel any strain. When you feel that maximum expansiveness, then you can start to move on to the next stage. When you exhale, exhale just a little bit more completely, a little bit more deeply, so that you can have a fresh start for the next cycle. Take resting breaths in between as needed. Finish this cycle of Abhyantara Viloma, Viloma inhales. Finish this cycle and then return to the resting breath. When you return to the resting breath, maintain that sense of expansiveness, even though there's no conscious ujjayi, so to speak. There's still that sort of lingering presence of the ujjayi, even in your resting breath. Like ujjayi is still in the room, even though you're not tapping into ujjayi right now. It's just the resting breath. But that spaciousness, that capacity is still there. Okay, and now folding your hands, bend your legs, roll to your side. All right, so keep your bolster in this orientation. And then we're going to sit in Virasana. So now take one of the blankets and from the shoulder stand fold, roll it from the wide end and place it right above the ankles. right on the, just below the back heel. And then the buttock bones will come just behind that roll. So it's a very particular way of sitting. And you'll feel the pressure of the shins coming into the floor. And you should feel a tremendous sense of lift coming from this. So this position allows the spine. It encourages the spine to really lift quite strongly. Take a blanket, take a second blanket. Sorry, I forgot to tell you earlier. And from shoulder stand +1, fold. Now 3-fold it and place it on your lap. Because we're seated on so much height, the thighs are kind of low down. So then having this high lap desk, so to speak, helps us to keep the spine alert. So then from here, as you press the outer shins down, make sure that you're even on your seat. So it's very common to be leaning slightly to one side or another. So micro adjust as you need in order to get very tall in the trunk. With the palms on the blanket, press down in order to lift the spine to the maximum height. See that the sacrum is perpendicular to the floor, the buttocks lengthening down. But even though the buttock bones are down, but have a feeling of injecting the buttock bones upward in order to help maintain the lift of the spine. Then draw the outer elbows back, lift up from the inner elbow into the armpit, spread across the collarbones. Coil the front of the armpit up and over the shoulder to get the height. And then from here, bring your head down. Jalandhara Bandha. The more you can lift the spine, the more you can roll the shoulders back, the more you can release the head down. And the more the chest will come toward the chin. And from here, we'll do a series of Abhyantara Vilomas. So just take a slow, soft inhale and a slow, soft exhale to prepare. Exhale completely. And then inhale into the core, into the center balloon, and pause. Inhale a little further into the medium sheath and pause. Inhale all the way out to the skin, all the way to the periphery of the trunk, all the way to the top of the collarbones. Pause, and then slowly exhale. And take a resting breath. So just notice, do a little compare contrast of how this Viloma is different from the supine Viloma. What has changed because of the asana. And then slow, soft inhale, slow, soft exhale, and move on to the next cycle. Abhyantara Viloma. Inhaling into the very center of the body. So it's like a narrow balloon at the very center of the body. Pause, and then a little bit further out to the periphery. Inhaling and pause. And then the third breath is all the way out to the skin. And there's a feeling of the skin stretching. And pause, and then slowly exhale. Now continue at your own pace. Abhyantara Viloma. See if you can really feel the breath. You can do resting breaths in between. See if you can really feel that balloon spreading all the way to the back body. So it's very much a three-dimensional balloon, or like the Matryoshka doll. It's round. The Matryoshka doll is like symmetrical. And so the breath is moving in a symmetrical manner. Front, back, sides. So when you blow up a balloon, unless the balloon has been stretched in an unusual way, the balloon fills evenly. And each layer, each subsequent stage fills evenly. And that pause, really use that pause in between the stages to kind of observe what's happening, observe what has developed, observe what has changed, observe the sensation of the rib cage expanding. Observe where the breath is touching and not touching. Have a little bit of engagement, active engagement of the arms, because that will help to shape the breath, to shape the prana by maintaining the asana. So the asana is like the container for the prana. So we're mindful of the asana so that we can mindfully shape and work with the prana. Do 2 more cycles, Abhyantara Viloma. You might find that you can pause a little bit longer as the breath develops. There might be more capacity for that little bit of kumbhaka in between the stages. And then once you've finished, then return to normal breathing. Bring your head upright when you're done, but keep your eyes closed. All right. From here, come forward, remove your blankets, and then stretch your legs out. All right. Now, sitting in Śavāsana, let's come to more classic position, Śavāsana. And we're going to continue our study of the Pratiloma and Anuloma. Today we'll do some Pratiloma. So have a settled, symmetrical, compact seat in Śavāsana. And then so Pratiloma 1B, this is the second stage of Pratiloma. And so we're going to alternate nostrils. We'll just use the right hand only. And so it's going to be a matter of inhaling through the right, exhaling through both nostrils, and then inhaling through the left, exhaling through both nostrils. So that's the that's one cycle. Okay, so I'll talk you through the first few cycles, and then you'll be on your own. So Pratiloma, because we're using the hand, we can, it's not quite as much chest lift, because the movement of the hand, it does close off the chest a little bit. It changes the relationship of the arm to the shoulder, but because the fingers are in control, then it enhances our control of the movement of the breath through the use of the hand, even though we lose a little bit of that control in the chest region. We don't have quite as much lift as when both hands are down. And so what we gain is a sensitivity of how each nostril is responding. Okay, so making a pranayama mudra in your right hand, and then back of the hands on the blanket. First, sit up tall with the crown of the head over the tailbone, establishing the seat. Draw the outer elbows back and bring the hands a little bit closer to the trunk, so that the elbows are a little bit behind you. And with the arms in that position, you can roll the upper arm bones out, spread across the collarbones, bring the chest a little bit more forward, crown the head balanced over the tailbone. Still see that the sacrum is perpendicular to the floor. In other words, not to push the top of the sacrum toward the front body, but have it feeling fixed in a perpendicular position. Back waist wide, kidney band wide. And from here, inhale, exhale, bring your head down into Jalandhara Bandha. Roll the upper arm bones out, spread across the collarbones. Feel the heaviness, like we had the sandbags. I was offering the image of the sandbags of the arms and legs in the supine position. So here, there's still a heaviness of the arms. The heaviness, especially of that left arm, in order to lift the spine more and more. So from here, exhale completely. Then take a slow, soft inhalation, followed by a slow, soft exhalation. At the end of the exhalation, bring the hand up, and then close the left, open the right, and breathe in through the right nostril. At the end of the inhalation, bring the hand down, and then exhale through both nostrils. At the end of the exhalation, bring the hand back up, close off the right, open up the left, inhale through the left nostril. At the end of the inhale, bring the hand down, exhale through both nostrils. And that completes one cycle. Take a slow, soft inhalation and a slow, soft exhalation. And then at the end of the exhalation, bring the hand up, inhale through the right, close off the left. At the end, and then at the end of the inhalation, bring the hand down, exhale through both nostrils. Complete that exhale, bring the hand back up, close off the right, open up the left. Inhale through the left. At the end of the inhale, bring the hand back down, exhale through both nostrils. Okay, so now you will do that on your own, at your own pace. You can take resting breaths in between. You can add a little pause, just a slight kumbhaka at the top of the inhale. before you release the nostril to come into the exhale. See if at the top of that inhale, you can feel that same expansiveness that you had in Viloma. See if you can recreate that same feeling of fullness that you had after the last breath in Viloma. And then as you exhale, seep the breath out like you were deflating those balloons in Viloma, and make sure that that exhale is complete. When you bring the hand up to the face, make sure that there's a softness and a receptivity. So it's not an aggressive forcing of the hand onto the face. It's this very gentle sense of receiving. And then let the nostrils be soft, not to harden the cartilage, but to be very gentle with the cartilage, and to use the fingers to both to close off, but also to gently open. So as you close one nostril, you can gently open the opposite nostril with the other finger or the fingers, whichever side you're on. So there's a feeling of cooperation, there's a feeling of support, there's a feeling of assistance coming from the hand. Also see that the body stays upright, and that the head stays centered, that there's not a movement of the head toward the hand, but rather the hand coming toward the head, coming toward the face. So every once in a while you can glance down and make sure that the chin is in line with the center of the chest. When the hand comes down to the blanket, that's your chance to check in and see if you're still symmetrical, see if you're still even, see if the sacrum is still perpendicular, back, kidney, band, waist wide, chest lifted, maximum, the weight, feeling the weight of the hands into the blanket, outer elbows back, all that stuff can happen during the pause, during the resting breath. Finish this cycle, right side, left side, and then take a resting breath. When you're finished, you can bring your head back up with your eyes closed. And when you're finished, you can turn your palms down toward the blanket and sit quietly. So with the digital pranayamas, there's kind of a lot of activity. So then when you return to stillness, take a moment to observe that stillness. And take a moment to observe the resting breath, how the resting breath has been altered or shaped by the prior pranayama. Okay, then take your legs straight. I forgot to say for the people watching the video that they could just take Śavāsana before the digital pranayama. I want to make sure that people who are just learning pranayama are not trying to do the more complicated pranayamas, but can just do the simpler pranayamas and then rest. Okay, so now go ahead and lie down. You can lie on your back, flat on your back. If you want, you can take your bolster and blankets and lay them across your legs to help the legs release, if you find that relaxing. See that the buttocks are lengthening downward. See that the shoulders are dropping down to the floor. And rest completely. So it can be a little strenuous on the legs to be seated for so long, and it can be a little strenuous on the back to be upright for an extended period. So now let the muscles of the back widen and release to the floor. Corners of the shoulders dropping down. Have some space between the shoulder blades. So spread that space as you rest. See that the throat is soft, jaw soft. Now you can stay in Śavāsana for a while, say at least 5 minutes. And I will officially end, but you can stay as long as you wish. Have a wonderful day. See you later.